Welcome back, class. In today's lesson, we're going to be going over one of the aggro deck types you might see, and that is the string deck. This is a type of deck that people would say would like to go wide as opposed to tall, so instead of building up one giant attack, which would be more of a bomb aggro style, which we will cover in another video, a string deck is one that wants to overwhelm your rival with multiple attacks in a turn, just playing attack after attack after attack until their resources are all spent, and then you just do not let up. It is the flurry of blows of Universus. And a lot of these decks will have similar themes in common when you're deck building. And mind you, none of these are really hard and fast rules. This is just how I see this style of play and what I think can help optimize such a style of play. For the two decks I have here, I will not be going over them card by card, but I will include the links in the description so that you can open those up in another tab and follow along and look at the deck as you wish. So I'll give you all a moment to open those two links while I check my notes. Are we ready? Let's begin. So string style decks, as I said, want to overwhelm your rival with a high number of attacks in a single turn, often increasing their speed, making them harder to block, which can tax your rival's resources early on in your attack string. Some things that really help these decks go along is a lot of draw. You will want to add a lot of draw to these decks because you want to see the maximum number of attacks in a turn. You will also want to, these decks also, sorry, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. These decks also benefit from clearing your own card pool with various effects, which is why one of the characters I've built for this is MIrko 2. She, on her character, can clear your cards from your card pool, so we'll get into that in a minute. As I said, you want to have plenty of draw so that you're drawing as many attacks in a turn as possible. Check boosting can also help if you cannot access a lot of card pool clearing. Being able to boost your checks throughout your string will be able to help you with these string decks so that you can keep going. And you usually want a lot of lower difficulty foundations so that you can have very big early build turns, so that on your first turn you can build 5 or 6, heaven forbid, maybe 4 or 5 if we're going for average, on your first turn. Then maybe you build 4 or 5 in your second turn, and then on turn 3, you just go all in and obliterate your rival in one turn. So the first character we're going to look at is MIrko. I think she's one of these aggressive string-style decks, or the character that wears this type of deck really well. As a character, she can commit as a response. After your Fury or Kick attack deals damage, clear one attack from your card pool. Your next attack is +1 speed and +1 damage. And then as a Tenacious Enhance, so playable while committed, you can destroy one of your own foundations, say one that you've committed to pass a check, and ready her, so that you can commit her again if your other attack does damage. One of the best ways in a air kicks package, I've built her off of the air symbol, and every single one of my attacks has kick. So you have cards like Seperate Turbo, which says all of your other kick attacks get +2 speed for the rest of the turn. And if it's the only card in your card pool, so if this is the card you start your attack turn with, you get to draw a card, or add a card from your hand to your momentum, but we're usually going to opt to draw. So this is an amazing turn starter, because it's a 4 mid-5, and all of your attacks for the rest of the turn are going to get faster. If your rival blocks this attack, sure, they block the attack, but then our next attack is going to come in with an automatic +2 speed. Are they really going to be able to block the next attack? So it puts your rival in a tough spot, and that's if we don't boost the speed of Seperate Turbo. If we don't get blocked, or we at least deal damage, we can then commit MIrko to kick Seperate Turbo to clear it from our card pool. So then we're playing with no progressive difficulty, and all of our attacks get 2 speed, which is really pushing into that making every attack connect in your string. We have Shoot Style Knee Smash. If it leaves our card pool, during the combat phase, we get to draw a card. So if our rival can't block this, and we use MIrko, we get to draw another card. So these attacks that can kind of replace themselves are really going to be good for your string deck. We have Rabbit Cross Kick. Also, if it's blocked, draw a card. Our rival doesn't want us to be clearing our card pool all this time. So if we have to put a little poke in, and it has to be blocked, then Rabbit Cross Kick is good because it will draw us a card. And you usually in your string want to have a good finisher, just something to maximize the potential of your string. I chose One for All, full cowling, 8% falling roundhouse, because it gets 1 speed and 1 damage for each attack cleared from a card pool this turn. So this just says if I've cleared 3 attacks with MIrko, this gets 3 speed and 3 damage. On top of probably the 1 speed and 1 damage from MIrko, so it's a 4 plus 4 plus 4, making it a 7 high 8, which, when we have all the other speed, is really good. So your attack string is going to want to be streamlined for these strings, where it's all kind of helping itself, or helping your strategy go. Attacks that replace themselves by drawing you more cards or adding cards to your hand are really, really powerful in these string decks. You could also supplement some damage if you're focused on a speed build, like this deck is. It doesn't have a lot of damage boosting, with cards like Sports Festival Stadium, where as long as it's in your stage, after a player takes damage from an attack, they also lose an additional health. So this can reduce to 0, so that's just tacking on a little bit of extra damage every time you hit your rival. Plus, you can commit it, and if your rival blocks your attack, you get to discard their block and draw 1 card. And you get to discard their block on block before they would use an ability like a Breaker, which is a really good way to stop string decks, is to Breaker them, or if their block can force you to commit foundations, like a Showdown. This is a good way to get around cards like that and keep your string going, and you get to draw an extra card. For our foundations, we do want to be focused on a lot of speed, so we have our Rifle Arm to get +2 or +3 speed. The best way to stop MIrko is to block all of her attacks. So Quick Like a Rabbit says if our attack is blocked, we get to kick it from our card pool. We get to clear it. So continuing our clearing, stringing strategy. We have Unabashed Manner, since we're going to be destroying our own foundations. That gives us some damage on our next attack. Curious About Quirks is Free Draw. Latent Skill. We can discard 2 non-attack cards from our hand and draw 2 cards, hopefully drawing into more attacks. Secret Family Technique gives our kick +2 speed, and if it deals damage, we draw an additional card. So a lot of these foundations, Fearsome Transformations, flips to draw us a card, are just going to try to get us more attacks so that when we go in for that 1 kill turn, we only need that 1 kill turn. We also have cards like a Mother's Embrace and Small and Limber, which can ready themselves if their conditions are met, with Mother's Embrace readying itself after we've cleared a card from the card pool, and Small and Limber readies itself after a card has left our stage. So if we destroy a card with MIrko, we get to ready Small and Limber, which can also commit itself to give our kick attack +1 speed and +1 damage to try to push those attacks through. So yeah, that is the main style of the MIrko Kicks package string deck. It's all about boosting your speed, making sure your attacks land so you can clear your card pool, and then drawing more cards to replace the cards that you've already played. It's pretty basic. It's only and these decks, these aggro string decks, really benefit from being a smaller deck size, so you'll see them anywhere between 60 and 65 cards on average. Again, there are no absolutes when it comes to deck building in Universus, but I've seen most aggro decks at about 60 to 65 cards, 65 at the absolute highest. But with plenty of draw, you can draw through your deck pretty quickly, especially since you're drawing up to 6 cards per turn. In our second string deck, I chose Edgeshot, which is a little bit different, because Edgeshot kind of focuses on his own ability to give your attacks +1 speed and +1 damage after you review a non-attack card. So during the review step, which is between your ready step and your draw step, you can review 1 card, which is just discarding a card from your hand. And he says if you review a non-attack card, your attacks get +1 speed and +1 damage for the rest of the turn. And he has a lot of cards that allow you to discard cards from your hand and draw more cards, and any card discarded these ways counts as being reviewed. So not only are you drawing a bunch of cards with your attack strings, like Fold a Body Skewer, Canyon Cannon, Thousand Sheet Pierce, and Titan Cliff, but you're also getting more stats due to Edgeshot's effect. So you're stringing out, but you're also building your attack, so it's a shorter string necessarily. It can be a longer string if you can keep clearing your card pool and getting better checks, but it's not necessary. You can run shorter strings, but you're getting more stats. Full to Body Skewer says you can commit a foundation, and this turn, after you play any attack, you get to review a card and draw a card. So again, you can review your foundations to draw more attacks, hopefully. And then this Full to Body Skewer will also clear itself if you spend 1 momentum. If it's completely blocked, you get to clear it. You remove it entirely after it resolves. And as I said, cards like Canyon Cannon can review cards by milling them. But you get Thousand Sheep Pierce, you discard 1 card and draw 2 cards. That discarded card is counted as being reviewed. Titan Cliff, you can discard up to 3 cards and draw 1 card for each discarded. Those cards are considered to be reviewed. And you get to build a 6-check card from your hand or discard pile. So you build another foundation in, usually. Which, while you're not clearing your card pool, you are building that foundation in ready. And then we also have cards that allow us to draw, like Turbo Speed Dash, which, after it resolves, if it dealt damage, we draw a card. And if our rival has 8 or more foundations, we draw a card. So this can draw us up to 2 cards just by itself. And then we have Lurker Strike, which gains various effects based on what we've reviewed that turn. Usually it's attacks to force our rival to discard a card, or foundations, which allow us to build the next foundation we play, so we could build an attack after playing Lurker Strike, and it automatically builds down into our stage after playing it, which again can allow us to string out a little longer. Cape of No Return is just defense, because we are very, very frail. So I thought it was good to add some defense. Knott's Flask can give us +3 damage when needed. Barrier Shield is also defense. Also, giving Breaker on our cards defensively can force our rival to commit their foundations, which can enhance the benefits of our string. We have Botan's Coaching for draw. Ultra Regeneration, if we take 5 or more damage from an attack, we can draw 2 cards and gain 2 health. Or if we have no ready foundations, we can flip this committed foundation to add any card from our discard pile to our hand. Number 4, Pro Hero, says if we review it, and we have at least 2 foundations, we get to build this face down. We can only use this ability once per turn, but this means we can review it in the middle of our string with our attack cards to build in another foundation to continue our string even farther. We have All Worked Up, which can destroy itself while it's committed to give our next check to play a card +1. So basically treating itself as 2 foundations, 1 when we commit it to play a card, and 1 when we destroy it to give our check +1. Pass Through Walls and Ultra Regeneration are 6 control foundations that we can build in for free with Titan's Cliff, so it's just extra foundations that we're building. And Pass Through Walls can help us stop breaker abilities, or abilities on assets like Cape of No Return, which can really screw up our string attacks. And then we've just got some damage boosting with Sense of Red Riot's the coolest, and Elasticity. We can slow things down with Sense of Justice and Incubating. Just more cards to fill out the deck and to make sure that we survive because we are so frail. MIrko has 30 health, so she can afford to take a couple of hits on the chin. Edgeshot cannot, so he's more of a safer build. He wants to build a little bit more defense as well, instead of just committing out to 1 big aggro string, because it's kind of hard for 19 health to survive, especially in this meta. That's why he's more of a short string character, who can play maybe 3 or 4 attacks in a turn, as opposed to maybe 6 or 7 with MIrko, because she's constantly clearing, and she has the health to allow her to take a few hits to build up maybe 1 extra turn if need be. Edgeshot is more of, I'm going to string out as far as I can, but I don't want to sell out in case I can't seal the deal, and then I can play a little bit of defense and then string out again, and hopefully you can't beat me on that second string. So that is the bare basics, if we're being honest, of aggro string decks. They are decks that want to play as many attacks as possible in a turn to try to kill you with just overwhelming force. I I kind of like string decks. I think string decks are really fun to play. They allow the maximum amount of interactions. And they're a little bit safer because with bomb decks, if you build up your bomb really, really big and then your rival has something like Cape of No Return on board, you know they're just going to get rid of it. And that's kind of scary. There's a lot of ways to mess up bomb decks, and messing up string decks, their weaknesses are mainly defensive card committal with stuff like Breaker, or cards that have like Showdown, which can force you to commit your foundations on your turn, or of course just checking bad can really suck, or not drawing attacks. So when you're building your deck, try to make sure that you have defense against Breaker and defensive on-block abilities, and make sure that you're running plenty of draw so that you can draw all of your attacks, and maybe run some either auto-build stuff, like how you have your Titan's Cliffs, or your Lurker Strike, which can just build cards in the middle of your string, or ways to bolster your defenses. I considered building one of the Gentle Criminal decks for string, but considering those decks want to be blocked, I think that's a little bit trickier when explaining an aggro string deck. It does want to string out, but it does want to be blocked as well, so it's a little bit tricky, especially for newer players. But hopefully, the basics of aggro string theory is easy to grasp. Hopefully I was able to convey the strengths and weaknesses of this style of gameplay and deck building. This is the first video I've actually had notes for, because I want to get the message across as effectively as possible. So for all my aggressive players out there, if you want to build a string deck where you're just throwing as many attacks as possible to just try to run your opponent down, maybe string is the way to go. Again, make sure if your character isn't the one who can do the clearing or the check bolstering or stuff like that, just make sure they maybe have enough health to tank 1 or 2 hits for a turn or two, just until you can get your base built up for your big string attack. Yeah, with that said, I hope that you found this informative. I hope that I was able to help explain how this deck style works in Universus, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, class dismissed.